Did you know that skipping just one small spot during your shower could actually cut into your health and longevity? At first, it sounds almost unbelievable, maybe even a little dramatic. After all, a shower's a shower, right? You step in, rinse off, use some soap, and you're done. But the truth is, more and more health experts are pointing out that overlooked hygiene, especially in certain hidden areas of body, can quietly chip away at your well-being over time. And here's the part that surprises a lot of people. As we age, this problem only gets bigger. Why? Because our skin changes, circulation slows down, nerve sensitivity decreases, and the immune system doesn't respond as quickly as it once did. That means the areas you miss in the shower, those spots you think don't matter, can actually become breeding ground for bacteria, fungi, and inflammation. And when those infections sneak in, they can cause real medical issues. Now, I'm not talking about looking polished for the sake of appearances. I'm talking about your health, your comfort, and in many cases, your independence. Because a small skin problem today could turn into an infection tomorrow, and infections for seniors can spiral in ways that are much more serious than they would have been at 30 or 40. In this series, we're diving into 5 areas of the body that are most often forgotten during showers, especially by older adults. And trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end, because one of these spots is directly tied to your immune system. Washing it properly takes less than 10 seconds, and yet it could protect you from weeks or even months of health issues. So, let's begin with the first area that quietly undermines senior health, if ignored: your feet. Now, feet might seem obvious. You walk on them every single day. They carry you everywhere, and most people think the water that trickles down in the shower is enough to get them clean. But here's the reality. For older adults, feet are one of the most vulnerable and most neglected parts of the body, and ignoring them is like sending an open invitation to bacteria and fungus. Think about it. Feet live in socks and shoes and warm, dark spaces where moisture and sweat build up all day long. By the time you step into the shower, you might think that letting water run down will wash everything off. But in truth, that does almost nothing for the areas between the toes, under the nails, or the dry, cracked skin around the heels. And here's why that's dangerous. Fungal infections like athlete's foot thrive in warm, moist environments. They don't need much to settle in, just a little leftover sweat and some dead skin. And once they start growing, they're incredibly stubborn to get rid of. But fungus is just the beginning. For seniors who already struggle with circulation problems, diabetes, or weaker immunity, a simple case of athlete's foot can spiral into cellulitis, a painful bacterial infection that spreads under the skin. And here's something even more concerning. Many older adults have reduced nerve sensitivity in their feet. That means they don't always feel the first warning signs of trouble, like a small sore, a bit of redness, or a tiny blister. By the time they notice, it's often because the infection has already taken hold. It doesn't stop there, and healing is now much harder. Cracked heels, thickened toenails, or layers of dead skin might seem like minor cosmetic issues, but they actually weaken the skin's natural barrier. Every little crack is an open door for bacteria, and once bacteria slip in, they can move quickly into the bloodstream, where they're much more dangerous. What looks like a dry heel today can become a medical complication tomorrow. But here's the hopeful part. Protecting your feet doesn't require hours of care or expensive treatments. In fact, just 5 to 10 seconds of intentional cleaning during your shower can drastically reduce your risk. Bend down, or if balance is an issue, sit on a shower stool and gently wash your feet with soap. Don't forget between the toes, around the nails, and especially the heels. Afterward, drying them thoroughly is just as important as washing them. Moisture left between the toes is like gold for fungi. They thrive on it. And one last step that many people overlook: moisturizing. A thin layer of lotion after drying can help keep the skin supple and less prone to cracking. Think of this as more than just foot care. Think of it as vascular care, infection prevention, and mobility protection. Because your feet aren't just what you walk on, they're also one of the first places that show signs of declining health. If you take a little time each day to care for them, you're not just cleaning, you're extending your independence and protecting yourself from complications down the road. And here's something to reflect on. When was the last time you really gave your feet the attention they deserve? Did you wash between the toes, Or did you just let the water run and call it good? If you're being honest with yourself, you might realize you've been neglecting them. And that's okay. It's never too late to start a new habit. Now, let's move to another area that's often overlooked once people reach a certain age: the scalp. A lot of older adults think that if they've cut their hair short or their hair is thinning, they don't need to worry about washing their scalp anymore. But here's the truth. Your scalp is skin. And just like the skin on your arms, legs, or face, it needs care. When the scalp is neglected, it becomes a quiet trap for oil, sweat, dead skin cells, and even pollutants from the environment. Over time, this buildup doesn't just stay in your hair. It seeps into the skin and triggers irritation, inflammation, and even infection. And here's something that might surprise you. Your scalp has some of the highest concentrations of sebaceous glands in your entire body. These are the glands that produce oil. That means oil buildup happens faster on your scalp than almost anywhere else. If it's not washed regularly, the oil oxidizes, hardens, and turns into a sticky layer that's perfect for harmful bacteria and fungi. Now, younger people often notice this as dandruff or itchiness. But for seniors, the situation can be much more complicated. Chronic dryness, flaking, or irritation can compromise the skin barrier. Small sores or inflamed follicles become open invitations for bacteria. And once again, reduced immunity in older age means that infections are harder to fight off and take longer to heal. But here's the silver lining. Scalp care doesn't have to be harsh. You don't need to scrub aggressively or wash every day with strong shampoo. Even gently massaging your scalp with a mild cleanser every few days can work wonders. The massage itself increases blood flow, helps with lymphatic drainage, and even boosts mental clarity. And for those who are bald or nearly bald, don't think you're off the hook. A bare scalp is still exposed to sweat, dust, and oil. It still needs cleansing and gentle care. What's interesting is that this simple habit, washing your scalp with intention, has ripple effects across your entire system. Better blood flow, reduced inflammation, and even lower stress levels. It's proof that caring for one small area of your body can bring benefits far beyond what you see in the mirror. So the next time you shower, don't just think of your scalp as hair care. Think of it as skin care, immune support, and even a mental health boost. Because that small act of attention can change how you feel in ways you might not expect. Now, let's shift the focus to a spot that hardly anyone talks about, but it's actually one of the dirtiest places on your body. And because it doesn't get much attention, it often becomes a hidden source of odor, infection, and irritation: the belly button. Yes, I'm talking about your navel. It might seem silly at first. After all, who really thinks about washing their belly button? It's small, it's hidden, and most people assume that the soap and water running down their body during a shower take care of it. But the truth is, the navel is like a little cave. It's warm, dark, and enclosed, the perfect environment for bacteria, fungi, and yeast to thrive. Scientists have actually studied belly button bacteria, and what they found was shocking. In one study, researchers discovered over 1,400 different types of bacteria living in belly buttons. Think about that for a second. 1,400 types. That little indentation in your abdomen is literally a tiny ecosystem. And if you never wash it properly, that ecosystem can get way out of balance. For younger people with strong immune systems, this often shows up as nothing more than lint, a little odor, or some waxy buildup. But for seniors, the consequences can be far more serious. Moisture, dead skin cells, sweat, and oil all collect in the navel. Add a slightly weakened immune response, thinner skin, and maybe a slow reaction to irritation, and suddenly you've got the perfect recipe for fungal infections or even bacterial abscesses. And here's something else worth noting. Many seniors carry a bit of extra weight around the midsection, which makes the navel area even more prone to trapped sweat and friction. If left unwashed, that trapped moisture can lead to rashes, chafing, and yeast infections. In severe cases, these can spread beyond the navel itself and cause painful skin breakdown that requires medical treatment. The solution, thankfully, is simple. When you shower, take just a few seconds to gently clean your belly button. If it's an innie, use a soft washcloth or a cotton swab dipped in warm water and mild soap. Be gentle. There's no need to scrub aggressively, as the skin in that area can be delicate. If it's an outie, just a quick lather with your hand, and a rinse will usually do the job. And most importantly, don't forget to dry the area thoroughly after your shower. Remember, it's not just about washing. It's about removing the moisture that bacteria and yeast love so much. If you've never cleaned your belly button before, you might notice a bit of waxy residue or even a smell the first time. Don't panic, that's normal. It just means you've been ignoring it for a while. Once you start making it part of your shower routine, the smell and buildup disappear quickly. Now, if you're still watching this, here's a fun little challenge. Type navel clean in the comments. Most people won't even know what that means, but you and I will. And it'll be our little inside joke about paying attention to the details that really matter for our health. Now let's move on to the fourth overlooked area, under the breasts. This one is especially important for women, but it applies to men too, particularly those with a bit of extra chest weight. The space under the breast is warm, soft, and often stays damp throughout the day, especially in hot weather or after exercise. For older adults, where skin can be thinner and less elastic, this becomes a real problem area. Why? Because warm, moist skin folds are the perfect breeding ground for yeast infections, fungal growth, and bacterial buildup. The medical term for this is intertrigo. It often starts as mild redness or irritation, but if ignored, it can become extremely painful with raw skin, cracking, and even open sores. In seniors, this can spiral into something much worse, secondary infections that are hard to treat and slow to heal. And here's the tricky part. Many women, especially those who've been wearing bras for decades, assume that as long as they're washing their chest, everything is fine. But the underside of the breast, especially right where the skin folds against a rib cage, often gets neglected. Soap and water don't always reach it fully, and drying afterward is even more important. Because even if you wash it well, leaving moisture trapped there is like leaving a damp towel in a clothes bag. It's going to smell and eventually grow something. I know this can feel like an uncomfortable subject to talk about, but it's a reality. And if you've ever noticed itching, redness, or even a faint sour smell under the breast area, it's your body's way of telling you it needs attention. So what can you do? The first step is awareness. Making sure to lift the breast during your shower and gently wash the skin underneath with mild soap. Rinse thoroughly, and most importantly, dry it completely afterward. Some people even use a soft towel or a hairdryer on a cool setting to make sure no moisture lingers. If you're prone to irritation, applying a light dusting of cornstarch or a medicated antifungal powder can help keep the area dry throughout the day. For men with chest folds, or even for those with excess abdominal folds, the same principle applies. These skin-to-skin contact areas are high-risk spots for yeast and bacteria, and they need the same kind of care. Now, let me pause here and ask you something. Be honest. When was the last time you actually thought about washing under your breasts or chest fold intentionally? Not just letting the soap run down, but really paying attention to that space. If you're realizing it's been a long time, don't feel bad. You're not alone. Almost everyone overlooks it. But now that you know, you can make a change that could save you a lot of discomfort and even prevent serious infections in the future. So far, we've covered 3 critical areas: feet, scalp, and now the navel and underbreast area. Each one seems small, almost insignificant, but together they paint a powerful picture of how much we miss when we rush through our showers. And here's the thing, none of this takes more than a minute. But that minute can mean the difference between comfort and irritation, between health and infection. Now we've arrived at the last area on our list, the one that most people are too embarrassed to talk about. But it's actually the most important of all, the groin and private area. Now, I know this might make some people uncomfortable. It's not exactly dinner table conversation. But the truth is, neglecting this area is one of the biggest mistakes seniors make when it comes to hygiene. And because we don't often talk about it openly, many people are quietly living with problems they don't realize are preventable. Here's why this area matters so much. The groin, whether we're talking about the skin folds, the genitals, or the surrounding area, is warm, moist, and often tightly covered with clothing for most of the day. That combination creates a perfect breeding ground for bacteria, fungi, and yeast. Add in the natural aging process, like thinning skin, decreased circulation, and sometimes incontinence. And you've got a situation where infections can develop very easily if the area isn't cleaned well. And unlike other parts of the body, infections here can be much harder to deal with. Why? Because they spread quickly, they're painful, and they impact basic daily functions like walking, sitting, and even sleeping. Something as simple as a fungal rash can leave a senior in so much discomfort that their mobility is affected. And when mobility decreases, overall health often declines too. Let's break this down into a few specific risks that come from not washing the groin area properly. First, fungal infections. You probably heard of jock itch. It's a common fungal infection that shows up as redness, itching, and irritation in the groin area. For younger people, it's annoying but usually easy to treat. For seniors, however, the problem can become much more stubborn. The immune system isn't as quick to fight off infections. The skin barrier is weaker, and other health issues like diabetes can make fungal infections spread faster. Second, urinary tract infections, UTIs. This one is especially important for older women, but it can happen to men too. Poor hygiene around the genitals allows bacteria, like E. coli, to migrate where they don't belong. And once a UTI takes hold, it can escalate quickly. In fact, for many seniors, UTIs don't just cause pain or discomfort. They can trigger confusion, dizziness, or even falls. A simple hygiene habit can literally mean the difference between staying independent and ending up in the hospital. Third, skin breakdown. For seniors dealing with incontinence, this is an even bigger challenge. When urine or stool is left on the skin, even in tiny amounts, it breaks down the protective barrier of the skin very quickly. Combine that with the heat and moisture of the groin area, and you have a high risk for painful sores, infections, and in severe cases, pressure ulcers. These can be very difficult to treat and often require medical care. So now that we understand the risks, what can be done? Thankfully, the solutions are simple and don't require much time. During your shower, take care to wash the groin area gently but thoroughly with warm water and mild, fragrance-free soap. Harsh soaps can actually irritate the skin, stripping away natural oils and making the area more vulnerable to infection. For men, this means paying attention to the folds of skin around the groin and under the scrotum. For women, it means cleaning the folds of the vulva, but avoiding harsh scrubbing or internal washing, which can disrupt natural protective bacteria. Drying afterward is just as important as washing. Pat the area dry with a soft towel. Don't rub, because the skin here is delicate. For those prone to sweating or moisture buildup, a light dusting of cornstarch or medicated antifungal powder can help keep the area dry. Just avoid talcum powder, as it has been linked to health risks. Now, here's another layer to this conversation that often goes unspoken: dignity. Many seniors who struggle with mobility or balance start skipping groin hygiene because it feels difficult, awkward, or even unsafe to bend and clean thoroughly in the shower. But ignoring it only leads to bigger problems down the road. If balance is an issue, consider using a shower chair or a handheld shower head. These simple tools make it easier to wash thoroughly without straining. For those who need help, it's important to talk openly with caregivers or healthcare providers. I know it can feel embarrassing, but good hygiene is part of healthcare, just as important as taking medication or eating well. And here's something you might not expect. Regular groin hygiene can actually boost your confidence and mental health. Think about it. When you feel clean and comfortable, you carry yourself differently. You're less likely to avoid social situations because of odor or discomfort. You're more likely to move, walk, and exercise without irritation. That ripple effect of one simple habit can change the way you live day to day. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you gave this area the same attention you give to your face, your arms, or your hands? If you're realizing that it's been more of an afterthought, you're not alone. Almost everyone neglects it at some point. But starting today, you can make it a priority, and the difference you'll feel will be enormous. So, to recap this three-part journey, we started with the feet, the foundation of your mobility and independence. We moved to the scalp, which affects not just skin health, but also circulation and mental clarity. We talk about the navel and under the breast, two hidden areas where moisture and bacteria thrive. And finally, we ended with the groin, the area most often ignored, but also the most important for protecting health, dignity, and independence. Together, these 5 overlooked spots remind us that hygiene is about more than looking clean. It's about staying healthy, preventing infections, and maintaining the ability to live life on your own terms. So the next time you step into the shower, don't rush. Take just a few extra seconds to care for these areas. Your future self will thank you. And here's how I'd love to wrap this up. If you found this series valuable, leave a comment below with the word clean. It'll let me know you're part of the group of people who aren't afraid to face the truth and take control of their health in small, powerful ways. Remember, longevity isn't only about the years you add to your life. It's also about the quality of those years. And sometimes that quality comes down to the simplest daily habits, like what you do in the shower.